here at the National Press Club, where I've been for many events to attend and participate, but this was an event upstairs in a closed room with a group called the McClendon Group, which is a wonderful organization, and it was a dinner slash speech and discussion with a great bunch of people and wonderful questions, and the topic that they allowed me to speak about, of all things, was war funding and why we need to stop it and what it's doing to our economy and the world and our foreign relations and the people we are using it to kill. And it was a nice day for it, with Ambassador Holbrooke having presented at a hearing in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee this morning and been asked such questions by senators of both parties as, maybe a little more politely than this: what in the hell could the purpose possibly be? What's the goal? Where's the success? And it was, remarkable to have reached this point where there just aren't any experts willing to defend the thing. There are no rationales. There's not even a coherent public line for what the point is, and it just goes on of its own accord, and the legislative branch of our government is just expected to fund it, and these senators who are pointing out the contradictions and the absurdities, and Marja didn't work and that was the test, so why are we going with Kandahar and so forth, they're all going to fund it, and it's going to keep going. And so it's not one topic. To me, it's now become the central topic. Not that campaign finance reform isn't one of the biggest reforms, not that media reform isn't one of the biggest reforms, and so on, but in terms of what our government is doing, we're putting more money into the wars and the military than into anything else, and it's destroying everything else, and it's somehow still a separate discussion, so that we have these endless debates over how to pay for things like teachers, but when it comes to wars, we just borrow the money, and as long as you can keep borrowing money, there's no limit, and so there's not a financial burden and there's no congressional willingness to cut off the money, so the wars just keep going. And you have someone like Senator Feingold speaking up in the hearing today as strongly as any of them did, saying we ought to think about getting out, but saying I want to leave that to the president. Well, that's not going to work. It's not going to work. So I think we've come to the point where either you are opposing this money in the House of Representatives, or we could dream someday in the Senate, or you're not representing us, and we're willing to replace you, even with someone worse, because you can't get much worse than that. I think we've reached that point, and I think it may be unlikely that it happens, but I think that if the Senate refuses to accept the bill that the House advanced on July 1st, and it goes back to the House, we will stop it. We will stop the funding of this thing for some months to come. That's encouraging. The sad fact is that the Senate may get this thing to the president, and it may become law, and we may not hear about war funding in this way for a little while.
So it sounds like what you're saying, Dave, is that the role of the activists, the peace and justice community, needs to be stepped up.
Oh, it does. And it was very visible on July 1st which Congress members had been seriously pressured by their constituents, which ones understood that even if they changed things around at the last minute and they made it a procedural vote, and it was a vote to have these nice amendments voted on and so forth, they could not get away with voting for it. They had to vote no. They couldn't go home otherwise. Those Congress members, the ones whose staffers were calling activist groups that night to stress immediately that their boss was voting no, those members showed what can be done. If you go to a website I have called defundwar.org and you click on the resources link right at the top, it shows you links to groups around the country that are doing the best job, and the tools they're using, and the flyers and the posters and the banners and the activities, and the ways in which they are pressuring these Congress members. And you know, win or lose and have the vote at all or not, we advanced tremendously over a year ago in that they could not find the Democrats to pass a war funding bill, even with lots of lipstick on it. They couldn't, which is why they had to come up with this maneuver to advance it without actually voting on it. And so there is that progress. But we still need to get our act together and clarify that what we're trying to do as a peace movement is to stop this funding as soon as possible.